So this is a webinar, and thank you to IOVRVF that we are able to study this subject, which is an interesting and a growing concept in valuation. So without wasting time, I'll go on to the subject. Now, land value is determined primarily because it has an economic utility. And there are three methods of valuation. You are all aware: it's market, income, and cost approach. Now, in certain cases, all the above three methods cannot be used in isolation. Now, what are those cases? Such cases as undeveloped land, which may not have adequate land market data available. So there could be a development project in let's say a jungle or next to a resort, or a very large project, say a 100-acre or a 50-acre complex, where there are no data really available in the neighborhood to either use a market method or to purely use an income method or purely use a cost approach. So if a developer wants to, is wanting to develop a high-end, let's say, residential complex in a low-rise neighborhood, the market price comparison may not give him a right price. If, for example, if he wishes to bid for an upcoming auction. So if a land value is dependent on its potential of development, that's very important to understand. If the value of land is development or its potential of development, then the residual method of valuation is applied. Now let's see what is the definition of residual land valuation. So residual land valuation is the land valuation tool, and remember, it's a tool based on simple economic concept that the land value is surplus after development cost, profit, and interest have been deducted from the value of the completed project. So you assume that the project is complete and one is able to market that project either by lease or by sale at an X value. And you deduct all of these three major components to know what should be the present land value of that parcel of land. As I said, where to use this method? It is a method used to assess the value of land development or redevelopment, considering highest and best use. Once the market price is assessed in a time period projected, so you do take up the future values. All cost, interest, and present values are calculated. The costs are deducted from the assessed value of development to determine the present value of land. Now, in a way, all three methods of valuation, that is market, income, cost approach, or either of the two, are utilized in residual method of valuation. The three primary methods, such as market comparison method, it assumes that a plot in consideration should sell at the same price as similar plots when compared, right? So suppose there is a corner plot in a gated complex and its price is 100, and there is one next to it. So, since it's not on the main road, it's a little away from the main road, so you can use either a belting method or a comparison method and come to a conclusion that its value is not 100, it's 98. There similar plots are available. But what if similar plots are not available? Then this is an accurate method as long as these properties are similar in comparison, right? The market comparison method. For example, a shop in a market or a plot in a plotted residential development, a direct sales comparison is possible. Now, in case a property is unique and no similar comparison properties are available, then how do you do the value of the land? And this is a very common problem. If the properties are in isolated area or with unique view or is very large, say a large residential development, then in such cases, market comparison or any other method of valuation may not be applicable. So our development properties, either residential or commercial in area with sea, lake or river views. If a developer is trying to develop a property and sell off after development for the property for a profit, how much will he be willing to pay for the land? Such a land, which is very unique. It could be like, for example, somebody wants to set up a resort along with a lake. The market feasibility will work when cost of land and its development and development's other expenses like interest on land, building investment on loan. So he might be taking a loan. As I said, somebody is wanting to make a resort. He might want to take loan for land as well as building. And developers desire profit. The appreciation on land values during construction phase and sales phase is also to be accounted for. So these are broadly the circumstances in which such method can be used. Now, what is the process? This is the basis of development method of valuation. The price of land is determined by what a developer of an end user product can afford to pay after accounting for all cost of the development. Now, here comes the part that, an approximation of income by means of booking and advances can be assumed and factored in calculations. This method can also help in determining the highest and best use of a parcel of land. So you can see a funnel diagram which shows the cost estimation, then income approximation, then affordability calculation, and then you do the price determination. The method to determine maximum value of land or a developer or investor is willing to pay after determining the potential profit after development. As I said. Now, what are the key terms? The first key term is gross development value. This is an estimated market value of total project after completion. Now, that time period, say, is 18 months to construct. So value of development is determined on completion of the project. Estimated time for development is, say, 18 months. A void period of 6 months is added. So what is a void period? A void period is a period which a developer might take to sale or lease or the property, or a resort developer, for example, I said earlier, he might require 6 months after the construction to really make his resort functional, and before he can start the resort and rent out the rooms. Now, this value is, let us say, A. B, total development cost. So what is the total development cost? This includes total development cost, building cost, site development cost, municipal expenses, consultants fees, financing, development profit, and contingency. So the residual method accounts for development cost plus profit desired by the developer, because that's a very important aspect. How much profit is the developer wanting to desire? The interest component is added separately for development period and void period. So there is a development period and then there's a void period. Now, in that period, his properties are being sold. So he might be in a position to pay back his interest, the loans that he might have taken. This value is B. There is a flow chart that is total development cost is building cost, site development cost, municipal expenses, consultant fees, financing, development profit, and contingencies. This is the basis for residual method. Then there is the interest component, which is during the development period and the void period. So you calculate them separately. And we'll come to that why do you calculate them separately? Now, in the residual value of land, the estimated value is determined by subtracting the two values, A minus B. So residual value of land, which is termed as L, is equal to GDV minus TDC, gross development value minus total development cost. If this value is positive, then the development is worthy. This method is good for residential apartment development, mall, etc. In case of rental value, the interest on development and rental income difference is determined to calculate the project feasibility. This method is particularly useful while comparable sales data is limited and the property is intended for development. So as we can see, this is a method that you use for development properties and can be used for malls and wherever there is a revenue by sale or by lease. Calculation, now what is the process? The calculation of residual value depend on estimates of future revenues and expenses and risks. So when you, as a valuer, when you do this calculation, you do an hypothecation that what will be the future revenues, what will be the future earning, what are the expenses, and also what are the risks involved. Every property development has certain risks involved. The calculation can be complex as it accounts for future cash flows, consumer desires, market conditions in future. So, suppose somebody may start a project today and 12 months down the lane, all of a sudden, like we witnessed in Gurgaon, there is a rise for high-end apartments, right? So there is a change in the desire. The consumer desire is changing. So this method also helps the developer assess that during the construction, because he now knows his values in numeric terms, so he can adapt himself with a parcel of land to see how he can alter. I give you another example. Suppose there is a mall coming up and the developer has decided to have 500 square feet and 1000 square feet shops. Now there is a bit of a recession and the developer realizes that he's not able to sell 500,000 shop. Then if he decides to sell 100 5 shops in a 500 or 252 shops, that decision making can be done using this tool. So as I said that, residual method of valuation is a tool, and it has an element of modulation or changing values, as the time during the process. I'm talking about 18 months construction, but sometimes some projects can take even up to 3 years construction or 4 year construction. So looking at the changing market condition, the developer can alter his program, and he can do it more confidently when he has these numbers with him. There can be a changing interest rates. There could be a change in construction law. I mean, there are projects where an FSI of 1.5 was there, but halfway through the FSI became 1.75. Then and even the covered area increased, for example. Then he knows what are the values he's looking at. If he's launching a new block, then should he launch it as a higher income block or a much richer finished block, or depending upon what is the increase. So he can change his pricing and economic conditions of the region. As I explained earlier, if there is a recession, then or if there is an upward trend, then how we can modulate his project configuration in terms of layout plan and finishes. Hypothetical sales proceeds are assessed after accounting for future market trends, as I explained earlier. For example, in case of retail development, saleable space during future time intervals are to be determined. I said whether he wants a 1000 square feet shop or he wants 1500 or 500. That decision he can take by using, if he has that tool already in his hand before he started the project. Once the development blueprint is ready and sizes and estimates, the value of completion is calculated. So once the designs are ready, once he knows the configuration, and once he is able to assess what would be, he can foresee what will be his completed project, then cost, market, and income approach, all three can get incorporated and create a method, this method. Key considerations. Determining the future revenues and expenses accurately is the most important factor for a good appraisal. Now, if your future revenues and expenses are not accurate, they are going haywire, then your pricing of the land, which is the main purpose of this exercise, may not be correct, and this can mean losses for the builder. The demand for completed project in future market is an important consideration. Hence, calculating the market strength at the end, use a hypothetication needs to be accurate. This value can be assessed during intervals during construction period, as explained earlier. Construction cost and interest can be variable during construction and sales period. A variable factor can be attributed depending on past trends and projected inflation rates. So you know the trends, you know the growth of that area, so you can very comfortably and confidently project, say for next 16 months, 18 months, that what direction is the real estate market going. Uh, but in case the market is static, let us say, there is no inflation, there is no deflation, there's no increase in inflation, and there is no deflation, then accurately predicting becomes much easier, because you know the past trends and they're going to sustain that way, and they're there for this much of time. So uh, to understand the market, the understand the economic condition of the region is a very important aspect in determining the land value. Understanding of market cost, development cost, and project experience required to project accurate calculations. So development cost, for example, if there is an increase in the price of the property, then the price of the building material, then the developer knows that where his margins are getting squeezed, and then he knows how and what he has to do to take the project forward. So we see a lot of housing projects in this country, they fail, and because they probably have not done, and I know that many projects I know where they have not done any analysis before they started. As we are valuers, we can really use this tool apart from other tools to help our our, our customer, our client understand his uh, project better, whatever he's planning to build. Framework. The framework is this: that you do first gross value on completion of the project, what will be the sale price. The net value upon completion is dependent on what is the hard cost and the soft cost. Hard cost is the construction cost. Soft cost is cost like architect, engineer's fee, legal expenses, marketing fee. Third point is development finance cost. So if you're developing the property, you're putting some money right now, and that money has some value at the after 18 months. So what that amount, what is that value? What is the opportunity cost? You do consider that. And if bank loans are secured, then there's an interest component. So you account for that interest component to arrive at what is the net value. So see, one is the value of the land plus one is the value of the construction, which is soft and hard cost. That is not the only cost. Cost is also the the money that goes into bank loans, securing loans, and other fees. And you put in 100 rupees right now. 2 years down the lane, what is the value of that 100 rupees? So that is also a cost that you should uh, acquire, account for. Now, point number four, residual to land and land finance cost. That is land financing cost. 80% of the money you have taken from collateral, then what is the cost, what is the interest rate. So when you deduct all this, then you get uh, the land residual value. Now, examples of conditions in which residual method can be used. One, of course, valuing non-utilized raw land. Valuing utilized land with existing building where it is depleted, non-usable, or required change in use, retrofitting, or redevelopment. Uh, there are, we all know in Mumbai, there are all these industries which, when the land use change was allowed, then some of them used they either broke down the factory and they rebuilt a complex. Some even used the factory premises and converting that into a mall with some elements of interest, because and then they also develop a hotel. Like I know of Phoenix Mall in Mumbai, which is based on this concept. So to develop such properties, this is a good tool, right? So uh, you when you want to reuse or like historical buildings, let's say there is a museum which is of importance, but it is requiring a good amount of renovation, and it will have some revenues in terms of people uh, uh, walking in. So government suppose wants to redo it, and they say, okay, the running cost should be taken care by the people who are visiting the tickets, and the development cost we should be able to pay for. So in such situation, in historical buildings, when they are being renovated, this method can is used so they know what are the revenues they can expect, what will be the running cost of the premises, and what will be the development cost. So here the land cost is not the residual cost, right? So, for example, let us say a property like Red Fort. Can you do a land value of the Red Fort? No, it's not possible. But you can use this method to know how to redevelop Red Fort, what all can be done, and what can be the financial component in doing the redevelopment process. For large project in phase development, the building may not be for maybe for sale or lease or parts sale, part lease. So when you do part sale and part lease, again, this method can help you determine how much percentage you should sell and how much percentage you should lease. Now, there are some advantages and there are some advantages of this method. So pros and cons of residual method. The pro is in green. It assesses the feasibility and profitability of the project before investing in the land. Flexibility and adaptability to different scenarios and assumptions. For example, if one account for project design change, size or quality, or modify developers' profit or financing mergers, etc., this method can assess how change in different factors can affect residual land value. So it's not a fixed system. It has a flexibility in terms of the variables. Now there are a lot of cons in it. A lot of assumptions and estimates that may not be accurate or realistic. That is the biggest challenge in this method. If someone can come to very good and correct assumptions, the only silver lining in this is that if the market is changing, then you have a matrix, you have an Excel sheet. I mean, nowadays even AI modeling is being done to get that input and see how your project is changing and how you can do physical changes to the project. Now, factors like unforeseen delay, change in local land or construction laws, or any other legal implications, inflations, or any other project complications. It does not account for variation of land values during construction period. So during construction period, land value might go up, might go down. It doesn't require it. You may consider at the end of the project because of the complexity. I mean, if one starts using AI models, then maybe even this contra value would be taken care. It does not account for opportunity cost of land. Now, if you are investing, a builder is investing, say 135 crore, and if you was to invest it somewhere else, then you know that opportunity cost, it's not get into that area. That is the interest in money invested in land or its alternative use or variation in demand for land. Last and most important, this method may not reflect a fair value of land, but it's an approximation. So this is, uh, you cannot say that this is a fair uh, value of land, but you can say this is the approximate value. Now, before I get into case studies, I'd like to open up if anyone has questions so far. Are there any questions? Please ask me if you have any questions because this is the basic concept. After this, we will start getting into case studies. And if the concepts are not clear so far, then case studies may become difficult to understand. Although I have tried to keep it as simple. Yes, Mr. Prabhu Kumar, please ask your question. Is your mic open? Sir, I cannot hear you. Okay, you asked one. I presume you will speak on what benchmark to use to estimate and deduct developers' profit. I presume you will speak on what benchmark to use to estimate and deduct. I think I have already spoken about it, and will come more to it because the uh, the case studies that I have taken are also keeping in mind that to explain concepts, the finer concepts. I mean, I've just talked about a very basic concept. Valuation, as per definition, is an estimate. So then, what would be the difference between estimate and approximation? That's a very good question. See, in our valuation field, we talk about fair value, right? And the fair value is plus minus 10%. But an approximation can actually go more than that. As I said, there could be other factors which are impacting because it's a future values are being considered. So that is why I've used the word approximation, not use the word estimate. I hope that explains.
So how much that promoter can expect on his equity return?
That's a good question. That depends a lot on the promoter, and promoter normally determines it by knowing the market condition. But we can say that a promoter keeps a margin of about around 20% practically. In some cases, big developers, they even go up to 30%. But no promoter gets into a project with a margin of less than 12%. I give you an example. For example, there is a very prestigious mall project to come in a new town, and say there is a developer, like let's say Shobha, and they say that we want to get into this town. So they say, no, we want to create an iconic building. So we get a name. So that's a very intangible value addition. So in such case, they may agree on 12%. And in market in Gurgaon, there have been such cases where the builder went for a lower margin because that project he thought will give him a name. So I would say between 12 to 30%, 20% as an average.
So
And
in this,
yeah.
yeah, so this 12% or whatever the person you mentioned, that is for the entire project period or per year return?
Entire project period.
Entire project. Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Any other question, please ask. You can also type because I can read. Should we continue in that case? Now I'm going to the case studies. Now I picked up 3 case studies. One is a very simple one to explain the concept. Second one is where I want to get into the formulas and the calculation methods. And third one is again to go into more deeper concepts. So in the second one, we will go into the mathematics of it. But in the first and the last one, we will not get into the mathematics of it, but we'll get into the concept of it. Now let's understand this by following example. The calculation can be rearranged once land cost is determined by a valuer by checking land values of similar properties that have been sold in the neighborhood. It's a subjective aspect. The residual valuation of a development site is usually started broadly at the evaluation stage and is gradually fine-tuned before the site acquisition and construction phase. So actually the valuer steps into the picture before the project is conceived. As I said, the evaluation at the very beginning, that's where ideally a developer should hire a valuer. And then it can be gradually fine-tuned before the site acquisition and construction phase. So what does a valuer do? If you look at the diagram, he will determine land cost. So you will use a hypothetical market analysis to know the land cost. Like somebody once asked me a question that suppose there are shopping complex which is coming up about 20 kilometers away from the city, outer limit of a city of Mysore, let's say. Now, how do you do that? Land valuation. So what you do in that case is that you take up the 20 kilometer, 25 kilometer perimeter, and maybe this particular property was in south of Mysore. So you look at north, west, east, look for similar examples, and based on that, you can do a land valuation. So as I said earlier, the next is check similar property values. Now you do the initial residual valuation, and then once the project starts getting into it, you do fine-tune valuation. It's a very simple example now. Now suppose there is a development opportunity of 1,000 square meter office space. It's a case of a leased property. The estimated rent is 210 per square feet. Initial yield expected is 8%. Construction cost is 2,000 per square meter. Lead time is 6 months. This time will probably go into development, planning, getting money, blah, blah, blah. Construction period is 18 months. Void period is 9 months. The time, to really actually lease out the property. The developer wants a return of 20%. What is the value of the land? Very simple. You do total construction cost on 1,000 square meter. Then you do estimated market rate. Rent is 210. Now, what is the annual rent? 210 into 1,000. That is 2,10,000. Then 21 lakh, sorry. Then the capitalization is 8%. This is per annum. So 100 by 8, that is 12.5. So 21,000 into 12.5 is 26 lakh, 25,000. Less you do the development cost. So development cost is say 2,000. So it's 20 lakhs. Profit on construction cost is 4 lakh. Total is 24 lakh. So the residual value is 26 lakh 25,000 minus 24 lakh minus. If this property is available at 2 lakh 25,000, then this is a valid project. Now, they're very simple. Things like interest, things like opportunity cost, nothing has been accounted for. But this is the basic first step towards doing residual land calculation. Now, residual profit valuation. Now, this is where the mathematics will get into. This is a case study in case of an auction. Suppose the builder approaches you and says he wants to go in for an auction, what price he should bid for. Now you can, somebody may say that bid for whatever is the circle rate. Somebody may say may bid for market value. But the value to the developer will be different because it will be dependent upon what profit he is visualizing. And he may like to bid for higher than market value, depending upon what is the value of the land to him. So let us say the parameters, say the plot size is 35,000 square feet. Now building by law allows 1,85,500 square feet of the constructed area. Now building efficiency is let's say 0.8, 0.2 goes in other accessories, say club, security room, etc. Now saleable area is 1,50,000. Now the bylaw allows 100 apartment units to be made. So area per unit is 1,500 square feet. In that market, the expected average price is 1.75 crores each unit. So what is the value that he can get after he completes the project is 175 crores. Now there would be a cost on sale, marketing, brochure, staff, all that. So that is taken as 3%. And these are industry standards. So this is works out to be 5 crore 25 lakh. So net sale value, the value that is to the builder is not 175 crores, but it is 169 crores. Now for reference, I'm calling it C14 because in mathematical calculations later these references will come. Construction cost is let us say 1,200 square feet, 1,200 per square feet. So that makes it 22 crore 50 lakhs is the construction cost. Soft cost, that is the engineer fee, architect fee, legal fee, all that is 20% of the hard cost. So that means 4.5 crore. Now, to do this construction and this development, he is going to take some loan. Now, that is called development finance cost. So that is the finance that he has taken to develop the property. That we call as factor A, and later on we'll go into detailed calculations. But here we have right now given the number which we have calculated later on. That is 96 lakhs, which we are calling C17. In this case, the developer said, I want 15% profit. So that means he is looking at 25.46, right? So total of hard and soft cost is 27 crores. This is the total cost to him. That is C19. So what is the residual to land and land building cost? It is 116 crores. How do you get it? C14 minus C15 minus C16 minus C17 minus C18. Now, what are these C14 to C18? Net value upon completion. इसमें से we are deducting construction cost, soft cost, development finance cost, and development profit. 4 factors: construction cost, soft cost, development finance cost, and developer's profit. So we have now come to the value residual to land and land financing cost, right? Now, land financing cost has an interest component, right? Because to buy the land, the developer is going to take, say, 80% bank loan. This we call as factor B. And land residual, this is the value in an auction that a developer should be willing to bid for to see this project through. This we are calling factor 6. Now, generally, we need to understand we have taken a construction period of 6 months. It is actually longer, but we have taken 6 months for the ease of calculation. Money for soft and hard cost will be in 6 equal advances at the beginning of each month, right? So, suppose 100, suppose 60 is to be rupees is to be taken, then 10, 10, 10 every month. There's an interest of 12% and principal and interest due at the end of 6 months or the construction period. Land purchased will be 80% financed. Now, interest on land purchased is 50%, whereas interest on building construction is 12%. Interest on land purchase is 15% with all the principal interest due at the end of 6 months. Cash flow received in the future will be discounted at 18%. What is cash flow? During the process, if he is building up is able to sell some property and he's getting some advances, right? Booking amounts during construction phase payments from the buyer. Development finance cost. What was 27 crore was the present value that we calculated earlier. Now 6 installments, 4.5 crore. Now what is the interest formula? 1 plus r to the power of n. So r was 6. So 1 month, first month 1.06, second month 1.05, 1.04, like that. And then these are the 4.5 multiplied by this are the value. You can see the values keep on decreasing. So ultimately 27 crore is 27 crore 96 lakh. So interest, which is future value minus present value, is 96 lakh. So that is the component of the interest on his development cost. Land financing cost. Amount available for land and land finance is 116 crores. He wants 80% finance, 0.8 of the original. Now, what is the interest of land? Total land cost minus equity into 1 plus I or R to the power of n minus 1. That is 1.0125, 12%. 12.5% was the interest I mentioned earlier. So this value is this much, and 1 minus this is 0.0691. right? That is, which is equal to 0.77 into 0.8, right? Because 80% is the finance. So interest in loan is 0.0691 L. L is the land cost. The land financing cost is calculated once the land residual is calculated as follows. Land residual of land and financing cost is future value of land plus accrued interest, which is L into 1 plus R to the power of n plus 0.0619 L. Why have we done 0.0619 L? Because we calculated that to be the interest component here. R is 0.015, L is 6. Add interest on land component, right? So total is how much? 1.15 of the this value. So this divided by this value is the actual value of land, because you have to account for the interest that you will be paying later on. So this is 100 crores. L is equal to present value of land, hence that is the maximum bidding price for land at the date of valuation. That is 100 crores. This is with an assumption that 80% is the land financed, and for the construction he's taking the loan. And interest on finance amount is 15%. Now per month interest is 0.15. To purchase land, finance factor is 80% of L, which is 0.77. So this is the same calculation, but I have put it in a different Excel way to calculate it. So you come at 100 crores. So that means he can bid at 28,767 rupees a square feet. So now he has his value. He knows it's 28,000 that he should bid for. Market value or settle rate could be anything. The summary. If a developer is purchasing a parcel of land for 100 crores, his net development cost is 75 crores. So his sale price should be 175 crores. So that is nearly 42% is development cost. Any other variation like changing market, construction cost, increase in FAR, or change in unit design can be accounted for during the construction stage based on the above calculation. So a residual method of property valuation is a tool for development properties. I hope it's clear so far. If there are any questions, please you can ask me before I go into the final case study. Any questions? Should I go ahead? Okay, I see some questions. Yes, that's a good question you have asked, sir. Should we apply sensitivity analysis to above working? Yes. See, now the new development is that AI and data analysis tools are being incorporated. So that because sensitivity analysis can get very, very complicated. So with AI and data, I think, in my opinion, yes, sensitivity analysis will get added to the above work. Is there any discount given for project which will complete in future after a few years, as cash flows will be realized in future? If yes, then what will be the best? Yes, Mr. Mr. Lionel, you're absolutely right. So if future cash flows are coming in, then that is deducted from the bank loan component, the interest component. Because as I said in the second case study, the project, if you see, is largely financed. 80% of, in fact, the developer is putting only 20% money. 80% of the land is financed, the construction cost is financed. So in that case, when the uh, when the project starts selling during construction or during the void period, then that is deducted from the uh, net principal value of the interest amount. Should I continue to the next exercise? Okay, so I'm going to the last case study. Example with revenue input. You talked about if you're earning some income, then how do you account for? It's a very complicated calculation. I do have the Excel sheets, but I don't know if you can really get into this to this discussion on the webinar. But I am taking this as an opportunity to explain the concepts, the complex concepts in calculation. Because if you look at it, residual calculation, profit valuation may appear to be not that complicated as a concept. But when you get down to the nitty gritty, it can get very complicated. So to understand those concepts is very important. Now, we all know the residual land value is equal to gross development value minus total development cost, GDV minus TDC. Calculating gross development is net input attribute, NIA. Now, gross internal area is 2000 square feet, efficiency ratio is 85. So, NIA is 1700 square feet. Estimated annual rent is 2500 per square meter. So, that is the annual rent, 42,50,000. Gross development value, estimated rent yield by is 8%. So 42 divided by 0.8 is 5 lakh 31 5 crore 53 lakh, sorry, is the GDP. Professional fee, there would be an ancillary cost, contingencies of 3%, building cost plus other costs, ancillary cost, professional cost. This is the net cost. Net construction cost amount is 4449 that we calculated earlier. Note the disposal cost is not building cost. Calculating interest. Now, this is the concept of balloon payment. At the end of development period, all interest is paid back along with the cost. That is the consideration for valuation. Void period is also calculated on interest payment. So any extension of void period can substantially increase interest payment. What does that mean? That means if a builder marketing team is not able to sell the product in 6 months but takes 8 months, then this void period interest can substantially increase the cost. The risk premium can be considered in valuation. So this is the risk premium. You can account for that it may not happen in 6 months, it may happen in 9 months. So one factor you can account what is known as risk period. Detailed cash flow projection should be considered so that any change in revenue and cost can be incorporated. This is of particular importance in phase-wise development. Interest is calculated separately on the following: land purchase, cost construction, void period. So, how much detail you want to go or how much detail the builder wants to go in, it will depend upon the methodology that you finally pick up. Land cost investment. The land is purchased at the beginning of the project, right? The interest on this amount is to be calculated at the final stages of construction. Interest can be calculated on pro rata basis to a monthly basis from start of sale to end of sale. This is to know the site value. Land appreciates and finance of land purchase to be accounted for in residual method of valuation. Building cost investment. Number 2. Interest on building cost is calculated on cumulative basis. Known amount is usually gained on a quarterly basis. So interest is to be calculated on that basis. Now net construction amount is 44,49,600. The interest is not paid in the full amount over the entire period. It is assumed that on loan is paid after 24 months from the date of start of construction. So he has worked with his banker that I'll pay you all my loan after 2 years. Now it is assumed that 50% construction cost is achieved by proceeds of pre-booking and sales of the project. Now compound interest, the formula is P1 plus R to the power of N to the 1 P into 1 plus R divided 1 plus R divided by N to the power of NT. A is total amount, principal plus interest. P is principal amount, R is annual interest rate as in decimal. N is number of time interest is compounded per year, T is time period. Now you can see that this is a very complicated Excel sheet where you are uh, saying that 50% of 44 lakh is taken as a loan with an assumption that he will get 50% during due to booking. The interest is at 9%. So using the formula A is equal to P1 plus R divided by N to the power of NT, this Excel sheet is prepared where this is the multiplying factor. And the interest on this amount is 2,15,001. Now, what is the interest calculated over void period? Construction cost plus construction period interest into 1 plus R to the power of T minus 1. So what is this interest? 1,01,590. Other cost, letting fee. There is some amount of money that will have to be paid to the brokers who will get you, will get builder the ultimate buyer or leasing parties. Marketing cost, say cost of include advertising, opening ceremony, brochure design, print, marketing staff salary. So that is taken as 80 lakh. Development cost, which is you add all this 44 plus 215 plus 101 plus 80. That means your cost is 55 lakh 66,000. Developers want a profit of 12%, that is 11 lakh 13,000. That is added on top. Land value output. Now, what is the land value output? The difference in land cost at the point of purchase to be accounted for as to account a loss or gain on land price in timeline of construction and sale oblique lease period of property. That means he bought a property at 100 rupees and he sold the entire project after 24 months. What is the value of the land after 24 months? So land was say purchased at 9,000, the 4,000 square feet, and it was sold at 13,500. At the point of sale. So future, what is the residual valuation? It is 180 minus 180 lakh minus 180 divided by 1 plus 20%. This is the balance he has taken. So that means 30 lakhs. So that means there might be a 30 lakh rupees increase in the value of land by the time the project is completed. So how does the developer, what are the factors the developer would look into when he is developing such a property? This is a question which was asked earlier. He'll look for return for initiating development, return on development business, that the development that he's doing. One is initiating, the other is business. Third is return or risk. What is his risk in doing the project? Depends on market conditions like size, market competition. Is another project coming up similar in the adjoining plot or 5 plots after that? The demand and supply. If there's a city where new jobs are coming up, then he knows there's going to be demand. Or if there's a city where natural problems are happening, floods happening, or some fire has happened, then he knows his demand will go down. Type of development, whether he wants to do a lease development or a sale development. There are projects that I know of where they started off as a sale project, but by the time they completed it, or even halfway through, they made it a lease project because they thought lease is better. Because they suppose they have taken loan and they had a loan of, let's say, a 10 lakh to be paid per annum, but lease was giving them 12 lakhs. So they said, okay, let's keep the building. We are still earning 2 lakh. So that kind of a decision making is helpful for a Yet at the same time, by blocking his money, he's losing the opportunity to develop another project. So these are very critical decisions to be taken not only by builders but even by governments. You know, uh, or even as I said, historical buildings, even charitable trusts. They all need to take certain critical decisions. Sale time period, point number 5. The commercial development margin desired by developer are 12%. Residential development margin desired by developer are commercial development margin desired by developer 20%. Higher risk. Residential development margin desired by developer 12%. These are the very basic minimum values that I have written. Return on initiating the development. Return on development business. Oh, this got repeated. Return on increase in profit in rising property rates or vice versa. Demand on market conditions like size, market competition, demand and supply type of development. This is good. Sale time period. Sorry, the last 5 points have got repeated. So these are the primary uh, things that developer would look into when he's looking into his profit. Now, what is the summary? Though this is the summary, you can see the heads: building cost plus other works plus professional fees, then interest. Interest is building part, void period, letting fee, marketing cost, developer's profit, land value output. Now you have the total development cost. Then gross development cost is this much. So land value is this minus this. So project is feasible if the land value is below 4.22 CR. Conclusion. Most applicable for development projects where developer intends to build and then sell property or use it for profit. The maximum price a developer can pay for purchase of land, for example, in case of auction of the land. Landowners can understand the potential value of land before development. Another very important aspect. Suppose somebody owns a 2 acre of land and he can negotiate a better price if he knows the potential of his land. During construction with a variable market condition, developers can vary construction budget and cost control. A developer can explore various types of development possible in land parcel on building size, highest and best use, Habu, layout options, any type of property, for example, commercial, shopping, entertainment. So there is a parcel of land, one can determine what is most suitable. When selling, residual method can be used to determine the market value of the property. If a property is to be modernized or use change, then future values can be determined by working backward from future projected values. This method is used a lot in countries like England because there are a lot of old properties which are retrofitted, and these are residential properties. So how much money should one put into retrofitting is determined using this method. This method can be used to explore the impact of sustainable development on building valuation. Very important, growing field. Sustainable development is the growing field. What should be the valuation of it? What should be the numerics of, it's all fine to say solar energy use. What are the numbers? This is a very good method to use because sustainable development is talking about future returns. So in future returns, to assess, it's a very good tool, I would say. Historical buildings remodeling or reuse or change of use validity by this method. Now, key consideration: accuracy of input, market condition, developers margin. So this is the conclusion. I will now close and open to any questions that any participant would like to ask. Mr. Datta has asked, sir, the construction cost is borne by developer. Why are we taking developer's profit separately? Oh, because that is the cost to him. The cost of construction cost is the cost to the developer. It doesn't include his margin. It includes his expenses in making the building. I hope that answers Mr. Datta. Yes, I will share the PPT. I'll share it with the IOB, and they can share it with everyone. Any other question? Oh, I can see some more Q&A. It's nothing there. No more questions. Uh, how discount rate is calculated? Discount rate is largely calculated by whatever is the bank rate. I think that's what you mean by discount rate. I mean, because discount rate has many definitions, but in this case, discount rate is determined by whatever is the prevailing rate in the market. You said development cost to 42%. Yeah, that's right. Because you see in that exercise, uh, the total, the land value was 100 crores and the development cost was 75 crores. The total was 175 crores. So if you divide 75 by 175, it's around 42%. Mr. Madhav has asked, is this, sir, this method is only for developing projects? It is most suitable for developing projects. For the projects, where there's an empty piece of land and the project is to be developed. And also for projects which are to be developed in unique properties, like there is a property on a mountain and somebody wants to buy it, what price he should pay to buy it to, and what he can make. For example, if there is a space which is very far away, can you make a museum? You're in Himachal, do you want to make a museum? Will it make sense to you? If you want to make a museum, what should be the price you should pay? So yes, it can be used for, it is largely used for unique properties where, similar examples are not available. Let's suppose there is a builder and there is a group housing complex where there are 25 parcel of 2 acre land and 20 have already been sold, 5 more are there, then you may not use this method because you have enough market data available. But in case market data is not available, then this method is useful. So I would not use the word that it's only for developing property. I would say that this is useful where, in practical sense, where the data is not available. There is no market comparison easily possible. Or property is unique, like there is a 500 square yard plotted colony, and there 2 acre of land is available to develop a group housing. Now you can't use the value of 500 square yard market value. You have to do what is the development potential of that depending upon the FSI. Because FSI for 500 square yard will be very different from an FSI for 2 acre. So this is a very good example. And I think the excellent use is in auction. In auction, if somebody wants to build up a mall, for example, and it's in a residential area, then the values will not be same as the residential value. And that's the only mall coming up in the residential area, for example. Or even if government, when they want to auction, what should be the reserve price? I have had the HSIDC approach me for reserve price, and where I use the same method to give them a price because circle rate and market price was not a feasible way. Yeah. Any other question, please? I think we are done with the session.
Yeah, thank you so much, Romit sir, for the statement.
Thank you so much.
And I'll check there's no more question.
Thank you.
Check
If there is
and-
anything, then you can, get in touch with me. My number is easily available. I think it's with IOV. Otherwise, you can write it down. It's 98-105-34-994. I'll also type it. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for coming and joining. And I
Yeah.
hope this session was.
Once again, thank you so much, Romit sir, for the wonderful session, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you all the members. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.